Thanks, Peter. Hi, I'm Salil Jain and the Chief Client Officer here at MetricStream. I have the pleasure today of hosting a most distinguished panel on the topic of auditing in the era of crisis and beyond. We have with us today three distinguished panelists, William Onuwa, Chief Audit Executive for the Royal Bank of Canada. We've got Gilbert Kitiche, I hope I did justice to the last name, Chief Audit Executive at Freddie Mac, and Doug Watt, Chief Audit Executive at Fannie Mae. Thank you to the panelists for joining us, for making the time to share their insights. And I will start off by asking each of them to introduce themselves and their organization roles and responsibilities, perhaps. So, Doug, perhaps you could kick it off for us.
Thank you, Salil, and hello. My name is Doug Watt. I'm the Chief Audit Executive at Fannie Mae, and I've been in this role for a little under 4 years. It'll be 4 years. And I have to say it's the best job I've ever had. I've been in the profession for a while. I spent 31 years at PricewaterhouseCoopers, was a partner there, and the internal audit side of things is, at least from my perspective, a lot more fun, a lot more interesting. So I'm really happy to be here, and I look forward to speaking with everyone.
Thanks, Doug. William, perhaps you could take it from there.
Thanks very much, Salil, and thanks a lot for inviting me to this august body conference. My last year's experience makes this panel a really interesting one to be on. Look, my role at RBC is as the Chief Audit Executive for RBC, and I've been in the role a little less than 3 years, a little less than 4 years, I'm sorry. And during those years, the last few years have just flown by. Really exciting time. Changes a lot. Changes coming on a lot faster. Profession. I'm not a professional auditor, so I come from the risk background as a chief risk officer before I moved to this role.
Thanks, William. And Gilbert?
Thank you, Salil. My name is Gilbert Kitiche. I'm the Chief Audit Executive at Freddie Mac. I've been in that role almost a couple of years, about a little over 20 years experience in auditing. At Freddie Mac and within internal audit, our goal and our role is really to support the business in delivering in our mission. We want to make home possible, and internal audit is well suited to support the rest of the organization in delivering that mission. Thank you for having me.
Gilbert as well. So with that, we'll jump into the core topics here. These are challenging times, unprecedented, of course, and but also a great opportunity for internal audit executives to assist their companies at the same time with managing the most critical risks coming from COVID-19. And I was wondering what kinds of risks and challenges are top of mind for you as we go forward into this crisis here. With that, I'd love to direct this question to Doug, and perhaps William and Gilbert can add in their thoughts and feedback as well. Doug?
Sure, Salil. You know, one of the things about being in services, right, we worry about market risk, liquidity risk, interest rate, you name it. There's a lot of risks that are out there. And we're worried about all those risks. And I'll add one more, and that's governance, including data governance. We can't lose our focus on following good governance behaviors to move faster or to cut corners, right? In this kind of situation, there's inclination to say we have to go fast, and we'll cross the T's and dot the I's later. We can't lose sight of that because we're a regulated institution, so we have to do things right. One of the great things about being an internal audit is that we have the ability to connect the dots based on our work that we get across the entire organization. So you can't connect the dots, you collect the dots. And I think COVID has ramped up the need for us to be better dot collectors. And what I mean by that is what we've done in response to the shifting risk is that our approach has been to get closer to the information by participating in the daily huddles that our business lines have, as well as operations, technology, finance, and risk management. So our teams are actually there in the key management meetings every day. And I think being in the room allows us to actively think about our planned work and new risks that might be introduced. And then we can allows us to pivot, right? Make the changes to the plan as we need to do. For example, as we've done, we added a number of new reviews and new audits as a result of COVID.
Got it. So perhaps turn to William. And one of the key aspects of this is the number of different risks that are now inherent in the landscape and interconnected to each other, but also separate and distinct. Any thoughts on the ones to focus on a priority from your perspective?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Salil. I think a couple of things comes to mind very quickly. If you look at the risk now, while Doug talked about liquidity risk was a good risk to look at in a normal course of our program. But liquidity risk have become more crucial now because based on our learning from 2008 financial crisis, you want to understand, do we have enough liquidity within the system and within the organization to be able to go through this? Because lending is one of the key activities of a bank. The other areas of risk that has dovetailed into this is what you call the process execution risk. Most people have moved to working from home. Is there a possibility that process execution falls behind? So operational risk, while that was evolving, different from financial risk, what we call the non-financial risk, are really some of the things we're focused on a lot more now because of one, changes in work pattern, changes in work location, as well as the pressure on the fundamental, whether it's how you manage liquidity, how capital is set aside, the governance around capital, credit risk, which has now become a very key element because once you have unemployment and you have people falling behind, yes, there are government support. You need to now incorporate that into how credit is going to be delivered to the organization, and how do you make the risk the risk decision around credit for different organizations and for different legal entities. Because if you're dealing with, say, an airline industry, the credit is significant, the credit risk is significant. And in addition, you also have government support. How do you bring those two together to be able to identify where the risk truly is? So yeah, Salil, you're right. Some of these things are dovetailing into what audit now need to focus on. Yeah, we need to focus on the governance, but we also need to start looking at more holistically at the models that we're using in making decisions and the process we follow through in terms of those decisions.
Thanks, William. Gilbert, would you add anything to that?
Absolutely. I agree with what my two co-panelists have said. Pivoting a little bit, looking at the division itself, audit in this environment has to make itself relevant to the organization. And one way of making ourselves continue to be relevant to the organization in the midst of our crisis is making sure that we are nimble and that we are agile in how we react and how we formulate our work, that our areas of focus align with what is important and relevant in the midst of a crisis. I think some of my co-panelists have alluded to some of those comments. Think about pivoting our approach to focus on areas that present more risk in this environment. Manual controls that may not have been as important in certain instances become much more important when you're working in a remote environment. Cybersecurity risk has increased as people dial in or log in from home, and how they manage that environment, as well as how do you position yourself so that as an internal audit function, you're not disrupting the business as they try to get stable in their environment in the midst of a crisis. And we've been looking at these things as we've gone through our process, preparing ourselves, keeping ourselves nimble, and making sure that we're pivoting by adjusting our program, adjusting our methodologies to provide that relevance in the midst of the crisis without giving up our role as the third line of defense.
Excellent. And so Gilbert, as a follow-up to that, is how does one become a lot more agile and able to
Salil, I can't
adjust
hear
to?
you.
Is there an audio issue? Can you hear me now?
Am I muted? I can't hear.
Doug, can you hear me? William, can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. So maybe move to Gilbert for a second. Gilbert, just following up on your last comment. You've got a fairly large team. How are you helping them to become more agile and adapt to the changing business environment? Does that mean stand-up meetings? Does that mean faster assessments? What does that mean from your team's perspective and their processes perspective?
Absolutely. We have at Freddie Mac we have two advantages. We had two advantages coming into this crisis in the sense that we were already prepared to be agile and remote as a division by the nature of our work. We were prepared in terms of our team was equipped to be able to work from any location and to be able to deliver on their mission. So in the midst of crisis, transitioning to a remote environment was fairly seamless. The other advantage is that from a technology perspective, we have a very stable technology platform. And that has allowed our team to be able to swiftly transition. Now, to your point, we've had to flex our methodology. Some elements of flexing our methodology is really focusing on things on timing. What's the time of our audit? Some of the hard timelines we have, some of them we've made them softer timelines, creating more flexibility in how we scope our work. But more importantly, focusing on the people element, we've created more routine connection contact points throughout the week, throughout the day, that have allowed the team to stay connected. When you're working remote, you lose the benefit of looking over the desk and talking to the person across the seat from you and engaging in that conversation. You lose that human contact that you're used to at work. And we've been able to start simulating that through our various connection points, the leadership teams meeting on a regular basis, probably a more regular basis than they were in the office, because we want to maintain that connection, as well as empowering the team to be able to navigate this environment. And the team has been empowered through various forms. One, making sure that they have the right access to the business teams and to the business leadership teams, making sure that they have the right access to the appropriate tools. As a division and as a company, we've extended additional help to across the division to make sure that everybody is equipped at home to be able to deliver from a remote setting. And that has empowered the team to continue doing their work and delivering. But also the other thing I would mention is that in this situation where you're working in the midst of a crisis, creating flexibility in the work schedule helps. And that has been a big game changer for us. Recognizing that while in the past every meeting had to be between 9 and 5, that some people are homeschooling at home because the schools are closed. So you want to create some flexibility. Some things that may have been considered abnormal in a work environment are now normal. Your 5-year-old walking in on you while you're doing a conference call and saying hi to your colleagues may have been considered unheard of before the crisis, but when everybody is working on at home, that becomes a new normal, and creating a sense of acceptability within the team allows for you not to be distracted from what matters and being able to deliver on your mission.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, yeah, William, can you hear us? William, got it. Okay. Well, I'll ask Doug in that case, perhaps to any insights and comments on your part from that.
Nice job of comprehensively touching, the kind of the people processology approach to the whole thing. I'll just emphasize on the people side. I think more frequent touch points is really important. That's formal or informal. We are having more stand-up meetings, huddle meetings with our team, which have been quite good. Meetings, more to the point, and we're having more frequent progress status just to make sure we feel with either the pace of the work or, as Gilbert said, some of the distractions that are out there too. The first couple of weeks, some people were stressed out as they were trying to figure out their lives as well as trying to figure out their work. A lot of that has settled. People have gotten into routines, but we have to realize that people are going to stress times, and the best way to do that is just by staying close and recognize that we're going to be sympathetic, we're going to be empathetic, and we can't what we have to do if our team isn't able to perform. So whatever we can do to support them is really important.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm just wondering, has this also changed in any way the interactions with the business, with the first and second lines, perhaps in terms of how the audit function deals with them or works with them? Very similar along the same lines.
That's a good question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Doug.
Doug? Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Gilbert. Yeah. I would just think we know we're all in this together. And so we're all trying to figure out what's the best communicate, the frequency, the type, is it written? Is it a phone call? Is it an instant message? That sort of thing. And as I mentioned before, we are spending more time in some of the information being right around with the various business functions. So we don't have to do as much to get on calendars, because that's, I think, one of the challenges right now is that you can't bump into somebody in the hallway, as Gilbert said. We're just sitting down at to get on their calendar. You don't know what they're doing. They don't know. So as a result, you can have other touch points that you can have more frequent, quicker, more impactful. It's really important. Folks, and as Gilbert made a great point too about not trying to be disruptive, but also recognizing, and I think we have good enough relationship with our business partners that they know too, that we're just trying to do our jobs also. So it's a lot of it is really just cooperating, being professionals.
Yeah. Gilbert, you were saying something?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with Doug. The businesses understand that audit has a role to play. And as the third line of defense, we want to make sure we execute and we deliver on that mission. And that's important. That's important to audit. That's important to the business. That's important to our board of directors. And being able to be in the room and have that continuous assessment, be part of that process is critical. We have not experienced any challenges delivering on that mission. The businesses understand that we are also there to help. One of the goals that we've had within our division has been making sure, same as the rest of the industry across the market, that we've been pivoting. We've been pivoting from what was considered policing, internal auditing 5-10 years ago to what is now more of a partnership and an advisory role that is well balanced to deliver both assurance and advisory services to the division within the framework of a strong internal audit function. And to do that, you need that constant engagement, that constant interaction, which has come to be appreciated by the businesses, and providing that real-time feedback, especially in the midst of a crisis. You want that real-time feedback to be delivered to the businesses immediately when they can be able to react and adapt. And you want to make sure that any gaps that emerge over the course of a crisis don't end up causing more harm, that they're being communicated and they're being remediated as soon as possible. So that interaction has actually increased with the first and the second line in the midst of the crisis. And technology, the fact that we have a good technology framework, that we have a good technology platform, has allowed for that connectivity to happen on a faster pace. as Doug mentioned earlier, you typically you have calendars to navigate. You have to call somebody's assistant and so forth. With as people become more nimble and agile and learn how to react quickly on technology, you're seeing a whole lot more collaboration through the collaboration tools that have been implemented through our technology platforms, and that is helping a great deal.
That actually leads into my next question. But before I go into that, just wanted to apologize. There was a connectivity issue. Talking about technology, there was a connectivity issue for William. So I think he has dropped off. So if we're able to reconnect, he will be back. But in the meanwhile, we should continue here. So in terms of technology, many organizations still today manage their audit assessments manually or on an ad hoc basis. Few organizations truly have full-fledged risk management or integrated risk management tools and tools. Do you think this has accelerated the need for these kinds of tools and technologies further? Particularly, for example, going all the way to automation and AI type of tools, which have been on, making increasing inroads into the technology space of late. So I'll key that up to Doug, if Doug, you can hear me.
Yeah, sure. The profession is changing in a lot of ways, right? And I think when we think about the auditor and the audit of the future, the future is here in a lot of respects, right? We have, whether it's the GRC type tools that's offered by MetricStream, or whether it's trying to employ AI or other data and analytics tools. Those are all the things right now. We have such an abundance of data that the world of auditing and taking a sample of 25 is acceptable anymore. And so, using the technology and training the people so that they can use it and use it effectively can really kind of streamline the work that we do. I think the other thing that goes with that too is that, the sort of things that we have to look at, the monitoring, the continuous monitoring, maybe continuous auditing, those sort of things, you can do it much more cheaply, much more easily, and allows the auditors to be freed up to do the more important work, right? The analysis, the identifying new risks, developing a new approach. So I think, all of these things are helping to accelerate the use of new tools. And I'm excited about it, because I think when you think about the work that we do now and the work that we do a few years from now, all of our people are going to have to be trained, and they're going to have to be trained in the various technologies and be there, because the old ways of just taking a sample and hoping to find something is just not acceptable anymore.
Yep, gotcha. Thanks, Gilbert. Any thoughts on that? It's perhaps it has implications, skills perhaps you build in your organization as well. And looks like William is back.
I can't hear you.
Go ahead, Gilbert.
So I have to drop.
Yeah, absolutely. The reality is that the auditor of the future is an IT auditor who knows how to audit the business and who can be able to do both business, process, and IT review. The idea that any process is wholly manual is rare in this day and age. So that integration between technology and the process, or technology to support the delivery within a process, is real today. And the auditors being able to make sure they can make that connection is critical. Now, obviously, you won't start reacting to that fact in the midst of the crisis. You would need to have started before the crisis, or learning from the crisis, start building in preparation for the next one. within our function, we have a robust IT audit team that is well integrated with our business process team, as well as a heavily developed data analytics and model team. And the whole idea of building those groups from a subject matter perspective is really to support the internal audit function in delivering within a complex process. And because of that, we've really seen little or no impact in our ability to deliver in a remote fashion or in the midst of this crisis, because the audit teams have been well set to continue delivering this despite this type of disruption. And the reality too is that, as Doug mentioned earlier, we have a whole set of data that exists within the organization, and being able to dissect and review and understand and audit that data in bigger chunks in a faster, more efficient way is critical to being able to deliver valuable assurance. Now, by applying technology, applying data analytics, we're able to pivot and focus on the higher risk areas, so that you are spending the majority of your time looking at higher risk areas and really not evaluating lower risk areas and spending the bulk of your time there. And that balance is critical to delivering value overall as an audit function.
Gotcha. Terrific. Thanks. Appreciate that insight. So in the interest of time, I'm going to ask one key question, and then we'll turn to some of the audience questions. But what are the implications of this for the audit organization of the future? What changes do you see in skill sets, tools, people, maybe managing interactions with the board, with the business perhaps, in terms of being a business partner? Your thoughts of what this is doing for audit. So, Doug, if you want to field that.
Yeah, sure. I think this is a tremendous time to be in audit. The profession has sometimes been described as that group that comes in after the battle and bayonets the wounded. And I think clearly that's a harsh view. I don't describe to it. But I think we've got a tremendous opportunity to really demonstrate our relevance and our value, right? The audit committee, whom we report to, they're looking for us to have a point of view. They're looking for us to be thinking about risk, and they don't want us to be just backwards looking. We should be part of the process that they're looking. Think about what could happen, what could go wrong, and how is managed bonding. And that's really where we trade our value to, is when we talk in a well-informed manner about the sorts of risks that the company could be facing and how well prepared we are to address those risks. So I think the audit committees expect that, which means then overall the stakes are raised, but a successful audit function is going to embrace the challenge and they're going to rise to the occasion. And I think to do that, and you asked about and other technology, to do that, and it's kind of playing on what Gilbert said. The auditor of the future, I think that's a good description. It's an IT auditor who understands the business, right? We can't have these, what used to be referred to as integrated audits, but basically the IT guys, they contribute their bit, the data people, they contribute their bit, and the business people do theirs, but they don't do it with one mind, right? They do three separate things, and they miss opportunities to really get good collaboration and a great view of how the risks are being managed. So I think those skill sets are going to be the ones that are going to be expected, and not even expected, but demanded of the auditors of the future.
Gotcha. Thanks. Anything you would add to that, Gilbert?
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is from a resource perspective. In the past, you've had to be in the office within the four walls. Everybody is seated in a cubicle. Everybody is driving into the office in the morning. And what this environment is teaching us is that, especially for an organization such as ours, where remote working is working so efficiently and effectively, is that even when this is all said and done, there are people who really want to get back into the office. There are people who are saying, wait a minute, I think I can deliver as effectively, if not more effectively, from a remote location. and the striking the balance. So how we do work is going to change in the sense that there is going to be that interface and striking the right balance between remote working versus on-site delivery, and how you manage that, including the impact to your interactions with the client, the impact on how you deliver your messages, and how relevant you continue to be is going to be critical. So one thing is for sure, as we get out of this crisis, we are looking into how do we continue to work? How does our work style, routines, engagement, on-site versus off-site change? And that's going to be critical. The other element is going to be how we use data. And that Doug alluded to this in that we have a whole ton of data. How do we analyze that data and make sure that we are relevant today, as opposed to just looking at what happened 1 year ago and opining on that, but really providing for governance bodies, be it the board of directors or the senior executives within the businesses, providing a perspective that is relevant today, that can allow them to make decisions that are impactful today without compromising our overall audit function, independence, or delivery of the assurance that we need to deliver as per our mandate.
Terrific. Thanks, Gilbert. I think in the interest of time, I'm going to just ask one quick question coming in from the audience. So did you have to change your audit plan for the year, given the crisis?
Absolutely. We had to make some changes to the audit plan, flex our methodology to keep ourselves relevant, and at the end of the day, it's with the blessing. It's with the blessing of the board of directors.
Yeah, excellent. All right, thanks. With that, I think we're a little bit out of time. So thank you very much. My apologies to the audience for not being able to include William in this, but fantastic insights and feedback from Doug and Gilbert. And thank you for joining.